Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svipadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padarmalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padha Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadra Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate gram yat kripatamham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Om Tat Sat. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Hare Krishna. Let's continue our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, sixth chapter. Last week we discussed on the process of creation, and we saw how initially the universe was created as a golden egg, and then the Supreme Lord, who's Mahavishnu, he enters into each one of those universes as Hiranyagarbha, also known as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. He expands himself into a huge Virat Rupa form with thousands of arms. So this particular form of the Lord is known as Virat Rupa, and we saw how different personalities and philosophers, they understand or they envisage this particular form of Virat Rupa based on their understanding. Some sees this Virat Rupa in the form of different varnas, how different varnas they are situated in the different bodily parts of the Virat Rupa. Some see the 14 planetary systems arranged at the different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. Likewise, some also see the 14 planetary systems just as higher, middle, and lower planetary system. And this chapter is a continuation of that form of Virat Rupa. There is a beautiful prayer called Purusa Sukta. Srila Prabhupada mentions about this in the very first chapter of Krishna book, when all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, they go to see the Supreme Lord on the banks of Shirodaka ocean, Shirodaka Sagar. And there, as Brahma sits in meditation, Prabhupada mentions how the demigods, the devatas, they worship the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada mentions that they sing this Purusha Shukta prayers. It's a beautiful prayer. It describes about the form of the Lord as well as his potencies, different potencies and power, how he creates, maintains this universe. So this chapter discusses about one of the questions. That's how it begins, and then we'll see the further questions also. One of the questions of Narada Muni, we were discussing how is the universe created, what are the different ingredients, what is the shelter, what is it depending on. So this first section of this sixth chapter of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam discusses about the answers for Yat Cha. Cha here refers to what are the different ingredients of this universe. We saw the process of the creation of the universe in the previous chapter, but this particular chapter discusses about what are the different ingredients, what is it composed of. And as we saw in the last chapter, how when the creation comes about, there is a transformation of one stage to the other, brought about by the effect of Kala. We saw how Mahavishnu, when he glances at this material nature, he infuses within it both Kala and Jiva. We also saw for Jiva, the Supreme Lord infuses the karma, which is the activity, as well as the subhava, the inherent nature of the Jiva. So Jiva and Kala, they get infused, they get injected, and then this universe gets agitated. And that's how we saw Pradhana comes to be, and Pradhana then transforms into Mahatattva, which initially was predominated by the mode of goodness, Vaikarika, and mode of passion, which is Tejasaha. And then by the effect of time, it then gets transformed into Ahankara, which is predominantly in the mode of ignorance, tamasaha. And then we saw the different shaktis that are created, and the shaktis in turn, they create the different aspects of this creation. Like we have mind, we have intelligence, we have the devatas, we have the panchabhuta, we have tanmatra, so on and so forth. So this is how we saw the flow of the different stages of creation came about. So this question is, so in one sense, the previous chapter talks about it on a more macrocosmic level, but now the details are described in this chapter. So the details here is about how the different aspects of the universe are created from this form of the Lord. The basis of this discussion is that everything in this universe is created from the body of the Lord. The very first line of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1, we see Janmadiyasya Tonvayad Itaratas Chartesh Abhignya Swarat. Janmadiyasya Yataha. Supreme Lord means he from whom everything emanates. Janmadi Yasya Yataha. Janma means birth. So everything takes birth from within the body of the Lord only. Within, there's no difference between the Lord, his body, his name. Everything gets emanated. So God is he from whom everything emanates. So the creation came about, jivas came about, everything came from the Supreme Lord only. So this chapter discusses primarily on how the different aspects of the universe within one universe, one is on a very macrocosmic level, even outside of this universe in one sense. That's the vision that was described in the previous chapter. That's the level of detail on a very, very high level. But now the focus is given on what is happening within each universe. So Virat Rupa form of the Lord, his different bodily parts, they give birth, they become the origin of different ingredients of this universe. And the first 12 verses of this chapter discusses about which part of the Lord creates what. So firstly, the 7 dhatus, Shapta Dhatavaha, the 7 meters of the Vedic songs, they are getting emanated from the 7 dhatus. The active principles of everything, they get originated from the body of the Lord. So body of the Lord gives birth to the active principles. The 7 Vedic meters, they come from the dhatus. The hair and beard of the Lord, they give birth to clouds. So the clouds emanate from the hair and the beard of the Virat Rupa. Similarly, the lightning, minerals, and metals, they originate from the nails, the shining nails of the Lord. The Lokapalas who protect the people, they come from the arms of the Lord. Similarly, the different lokas, Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Swargaloka. Bhuloka is where we are. Bhuvarloka is the space between Swargaloka and Bhuloka. That's Bhuvarloka. Usually, Bhuvarloka is the space where the ghosts they live. So that's Bhuvarloka, and then we have Swargaloka higher up. So they all come from the different steps of the Lord. The protection and bestowal of all desires, they come from the lotus feet of the Lord. Yesterday I was reading a quote of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was saying, We should not think one is given. In fact, Prabhupada mentions about this after opening Hyderabad temple. Prabhupada says, don't think that, oh, my Guru Maharaj has made one person pujari to worship deities, but he had told me to clean the temple. One is like a Shudra job and the other one is a Brahmana job. Prabhupada says, don't think like that. Everything is devotional service. Everything is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So this quote, which I was reading yesterday, Prabhupada was saying, similar point. Don't think that one is doing higher job and another one is doing lower job. Everyone is doing valuable service for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada is giving example. If a pujari throws a flower at the lotus feet of the Lord, and there is one tiny ant on that flower, as he throws, the flower goes untouched, but from there, the ant jumps off and kisses the lotus feet of the Lord. So then the ant will be more fortunate than even the pujari. So Prabhupada's point there is that we should never think this is just an ant, this is just a tiny service this devotee is doing, and I'm a great devotee, I can do so much, so on and so forth. One should never think like that. So it's very important that we maintain this consciousness of understanding that everyone is coordinatively, everyone is offering a well concerted service for the pleasure of the Lord. So here the lotus feet is for the protection and bestowal of all desires. Place of evacuation, gudam, that give the that becomes the origin for the envy, misfortune, death, and hell. The back portion of the Lord, it gives rise to frustration, ignorance, and immortality. Immorality, sorry, not immortality. The veins of the Lord, they give birth to great rivers and rivulets. Similarly, mountains, they come from the bones of the Lord of Virat Rupa. The oceans, the juice in food, without, we were touching on this point last week, when we are eating something, if our mouth is totally dry, we can't taste it. So to taste anything, there has to be some juice. So oceans, juice in food, pradhana and destruction, they all come from the belly. Similarly, the mind comes from the heart of Viratupa. There is a very close connection between the mind and the heart. Savai Manakrishna Padaravindayor. Tasmad Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara. Remember me again. Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam. Reason why mind is insisted time and again is like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives this example. Just like how somebody who is having a paramour would be serving very carefully one's partner, but the consciousness will be fixed there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, similar to Raghunath Das Goswami, similarly, you do your material activity, but your mind should be fixed on Krishna. So the ultimate surrender or the ultimate chastity which anyone can show to their partner, even in material senses, thinking about them. One is considered to be infidel in one's relationship if one physically is externally serving someone, but then on a more subtle level, the mind is actually going towards someone else of the fair sex, someone else of the opposite sex. Then such a person is considered to be an infidel, unchaste to the relationship with their partners. Similarly, here, converse is also true. The one who is fixing one's mind on the Supreme Lord, that person is considered to be the greatest, because nothing else bothers them. Nothing else is of priority to them. Only thing which matters to them is service of the Lord, lotus feet of the Lord. So that is why mind is always given that, you will come across many verses. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vishmartavya najatuchit, sarve vidini setyasir, eteoreva kinkara. Always think of Krishna and never forget Krishna. This is the king of all rules, and everything, all other rules of the Vedic scriptures are simply eteoreva kinkara, servant only of this particular rule. So thinking, remembering is very important. Interestingly, here it's given mind is coming from the heart of the Virat Rupa. Similarly, the dharma of everyone, truth and knowledge come from the consciousness of the Supreme Lord. So, if we analyze each one of these aspects, for example, if somebody is doing something wrong, one may think only I'm doing wrong, nobody is watching me. But where is this dharma, what to do, what not to do, that instruction comes from? It comes from the Supreme Lord's consciousness. That's what's given here, which means if we break it, Supreme Lord will immediately be conscious of it. Okay, that soul is breaking it. So when we study these sections, as we were mentioning last week, one way of looking at this is, this is very dry, this is very technical. Let's just chant Hare Krishna. Once one disciple of Srila Prabhupada tells to him that, Prabhupada, when we try to distribute books, people say, I chant Hare Krishna, I don't need to read. Prabhupada says, no, that's a wrong understanding. If somebody is genuinely chanting, they would want to know more about Krishna. Then they will read anyway. So Prabhupada says, it's actually the opposite. The more one is getting attached to Krishna, more one loves to chant the holy name of the Lord, more one would want to know more about the Lord. Because if you're going to sit and chant the Supreme Lord's name day in and day out, you might as well know. Because knowing more about someone is actually going to inspire us to think about them more, to chant their glories more. As Prabhupada would often give this example, if I tell you to love Mr. John, you would ask, who's John? But if I tell you John is such and such person, he is a very charitable person, he is a very strong person, very likable person, then our heart will be curious. Who's John? I would want to know. And then the more and more we hear about the glories of that person, we will also have a certain inclination, a proclivity to get attached to that person. So Prabhupada says the same way, in Bhagavatam of all, anything that's given, it's important. Sanatana Goswami, he says that every syllable in Srimad Bhagavatam, mind you, not even word, every syllable, like ha, re, it has got two syllables. Gauranga, it has multiple syllables there. Krishna, two syllables. Rama, two syllables. So you will come across this glorification that's given by Srila Sanatana Goswami, that every syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam is a worshipable deity of Krishna. So we need to allow Srimad Bhagavatam to come and act on our consciousness, to prepare our consciousness, our mind to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. In fact, simply studying Srimad Bhagavatam is associating with the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. So, simply by reading, opening the book, simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, or speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is exactly same as dressing Shri Radha Gopinath, exactly same as singing. Prabhupada often say, my books are recorded chanting. And if this is not so important, then Prabhupada wouldn't have spent sleepless nights writing these books, commenting on these books. Acharyas wouldn't have spent so much time. They've given up everything, gone to Vrindavan, gone to Mayapur. They wouldn't have spent time writing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidya Bhushan, Sridhar Swami. They wouldn't have bothered writing tika, commentaries on each one of these. So it is very important. So we should not give in to the laziness that often crops up in our mind, and we have to try our best. And the more we try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, our mind will slowly go to the mode of goodness, and then it will go to Shuddha Sattva. That's the Falaskriti that's given. We'll come across this also. That even if you come across technical sections like, for example, Vedic cosmology in 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning itself, it said that this is, if you study this, try to understand about the cosmology, then your mind will go to the mode of goodness. And from there, it will go to mode of pure goodness. Isn't that wonderful? Simply by discussing, hearing, reading, we can elevate our mind very easily. Otherwise, we have to sit to deal with our mind constantly. So here, the different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, they give birth to each of these different ingredients. So that's what's mentioned. So Brahma, after listing out all these different ingredients, of this universe originating from which part? He says, I, meaning Brahma, Shiva, and all other living entities, and whatever existed in past, present, or future is covered by the universal form of the Lord. Nobody is independent of the universal form of the Lord. If he moves, we can move. If he stops, we can't move. Likewise, every sense that we have, it can operate only based on how much the Supreme Lord is doing. If he doesn't do, we don't have the power. I often give example, especially in this section. If you want to understand it, you might have come across in some movies about voodoo doll. They make a figurine replicating the form of the person unto whom they want to inflict some damage, psychological, physical. Then they'll have a voodoo doll, they'll pierce a needle here, and the person will feel the pain. Crude example, but you can understand this is our relationship with Virat Rupa. We are dependent on Virat Rupa. If he tastes, we can taste. If he moves, we can move. If he is happy, we can be happy. Which means if we are seeking happiness, the only way is to understand what he wants and please him that way. That way it becomes very easy. And Bhakti Yoga is the easiest way to please the Supreme Lord. Not only Supreme Lord will be happy. When Supreme Lord is happy, whole world and all living entities will be happy. Yatataror mula nisechanena tripyanti tachkanta bhujopashakaha pranopahara chayatendriyanam tataiva sarvarhanam achyutejya. Just like how when we put food in our mouth, goes to the stomach, whole body gets nourished. Similarly, when we water the root of the tree, whole tree gets nourished. Similarly, when we please the Supreme Lord, everyone gets nourished and there is auspiciousness everywhere. So here he says, none of us, neither me nor Shiva nor any one of us, are independent of this. He extends beyond this universe by 10 fingers. The Lord also acts as the effective cause of the universe by energizing the universe both inside and outside. Last week we saw how he first created this golden egg and everything was just standing there without anything, any action happening for 1000 celestial years. And then the Lord has to infuse again with his Maya Shakti, with the infusing energy, with the binding energy. And that's when things, the creation really started to happen. So here the Supreme Lord is also the remote cause, which is the effective cause. Effective is the remote cause as well as the immediate cause. Everything is the Supreme Lord. Ekapada and Tripada Vibhuti. That's the next section that's discussed. Ekapada means 1/4. Tripada means 3/4 or a quarter and 3/4. This whole material creation is only 1/4 of the entire manifestation of the Lord. So it's this material universe, even though there are unlimited universes, we read in the different sections, different scriptures actually talk about it also. Yeshaika Nishvashita Kalam Atavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahan Saiharisya Kala Visesho Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, from whose bodily pores unlimited universes come out. Just like how Loma Vilaja, just like how we have bodily hairs coming from the skin pores, like that from his skin pores, unlimited universes come. So we can't even conceive how big the form of the Lord is, or this just manifestation. A Lord's form, nobody can conceive. It's unlimited. But even if you visualize somebody's body is there, and from body, universe, bodily skin pore, universe is coming, how big that body must have been. And our universe is considered smaller one. There are bigger universes, bigger Brahma. It's mind-blowing. Whatever that's left will blow. So Supreme Lord is the effective cause. So this section speaks about Ekapada and Tripada Vibhuti, and Lord is the supreme controller, enjoyer, proprietor of both Ekapada as well as Tripada Vibhuti. In other words, he is the Lord of both material world as well as spiritual world. That's what it means. He is not just the Lord of material world, but is beyond the material world, and the Lord is, he is also the Lord of the spiritual world, Amrita Abhaya. So it is, Brahma himself says, it is very difficult to measure his glories. And you will see this confession of Brahma appearing in many places. He says, even after doing tapasya for 100 years, he says, my Lord, I have understood one thing at the end of doing tapasya all these years, and that is, I cannot understand you. That's the conclusion I have come after doing meditation for 100 celestial years. So here also we see Brahma is confessing that nobody knows the extent of Lord's glories. In fact, in one place, he goes further to say, my Lord, I doubt even if you know your glories, because it's going unlimited. Ananta Sesh doesn't know fully the extent of the Lord's glories. Tripada, this material universe is manifestation of 1/4 of his energy. And above this Ekapad, or material manifestation, is the spiritual creation, spiritual worlds, which is characterized by Amritam. Amritam means deathlessness. Whoever is in spiritual world never die. Kshemam, happiness, and Abhayam, fearlessness. So these three qualities are characterizing the spiritual world, the manifestation of this Tripada Vibhuti, Amritam, Kshemam, and Abhayam. Amritam means deathlessness, immortality. Kshemam, happiness, and Abhayam, fearlessness. And this section also discusses about different qualities, like a comparison between Ekapada and Tripada. There is no cycle of birth and death in spiritual world, whereas in material world it is present. The residents in material world are primarily Grihamedis and Abrihad Vratas. Grihamedis means that those who lead a family life but only for sense enjoyment. Those who practice Krishna consciousness, they are not known as Grihamedi, but they are known as Grihastha. Grihastha, ashrama. They have taken shelter, but the rules for that ashrama comes from the Shastras. So that ashrama is considered spiritual. Whereas here it's mentioned Ekapata, which is in material world. Generally, if people don't follow Krishna consciousness, then they are Grihamedi. Abrihad Vrata. Brihad Vrata means celibacy. Abrihad Vrata means overindulgence in sex. So this is the nature of people in material world, in Ekapata, whereas in Tripata, which is in spiritual world, they don't take any birth. So they are eternal. They are eternal celibates. Lord's inclination, Supreme Lord is not very inclined to deal with the material energy. That's why he has Durga Devi. Last week we saw how initially when just Prakriti is there, it is actually without consciousness. And then so that's why it is known as the living entities, they are considered to be superior than even this Prakriti. This energy that is there as a Prakriti, that is controlled by the Supreme Lord. How is Supreme Lord actually controlling that energy? Through Durga Devi. So this Prakriti, which is unconscious, we are superior to that. Aparayamitastvanyam. That's why Krishna says that superior to this material energy, which is made of Panchabhuta and everything. So this is material energy. We are actually more powerful than that. But by Krishna's arrangement, while we are in this material world, the situation is reversed a little bit. That it feels as if we are coming under the control of material energy. But actually, if we are Tatastha Shakti means it's above material and below spiritual. That's where we are. So technically, we are above material energy, but by Krishna's arrangement, temporarily it is reversed. But the material energy is controlled by Durga Devi. Durga Devi is controlled by the Supreme Lord. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Hetunanina kauntaya jagat viparivartate. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. So here, Supreme Lord is not so inclined to the activities of Ekapada in material world, that he has different agents, but he is very inclined to do his activities in spiritual world. The nature of the souls in material world, they want to become the Lord. Whereas those in spiritual world, they offer devotional service. Fear is present in material world, it is absent in spiritual world. Abhayam, forgetfulness, present of avidya is here. There is only Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, Chit, means knowledge. Everyone is fully knowledgeable, so there is no avidya. The souls are very less in number in Ekapada. Spiritual world, they are innumerable. So we may look around in world population and we say, oh, we are 8 billion people here. This is nothing. Even if you count all the living entities in material world, all the souls, not just humans, that will go to number which I don't think even mathematics can calculate. Likewise, we have so many different universes. You put all the living entities across all the universes put together, we are still minority only. In spiritual world, there are far more number of souls. Sandhini manifestation, again, only 1/4 and 3/4 Satchidananda experience. It's very meager here. And that too only for those who practice Krishna consciousness. But in spiritual world, it's enjoyed or experienced in to its fullest extent. So in this way, Brahma, he extols the glories of the different potencies of the Lord, Ekapada and Tripada Vibhuti. Now, question come, why are these two different manifestations existing? So in answer to that thought or question one may have, Lord Brahma says the spiritual world, the Tripada, is for aprajanam, which means that is only for people who don't need to take birth again. Mam upetya kaunteya dukkalayam ashashvatam. Napnuvanti mahatmana. So Krishna says, those great enlightened personalities, they go to my loka, where there is no birth, death, old age, or disease. So spiritual world is for people who are aprajanam, who are meant not to take birth again. In other words, those who have perfected their lives. And material world is for those grahamedis and abhrihadbratas, those who are indulging in sex, and those who are grahamedis, who base their life solely and wholly on sense enjoyment. So the jiva, because they are in this material world, they get influenced by the different modes, and they have two choices. One choice is pravriti and second is nivriti. One, it can indulge in sex and go to the path of sense enjoyment, whereas the jiva, which is endowed with the knowledge, that's why studying shastras is important. The jivas that are endowed with knowledge, it goes towards the path of liberation. And the Lord, he provides both the paths. He is neutral. The Lord is aloof. He creates, maintains ekapath and allows people, makes a rule, allows people to work on this one. But those who take Krishna doesn't intervene in the rules of the game. It's like Krishna watching. You watch a football game. Everyone goes into the field, they need to follow. Outside of the field, you touch the ball, the umpire won't whistle and stop the game. But the same thing you do inside the boundaries, 4 boundaries, because you are in the field. Same way, Krishna, he created this material realm. This is like a field that is bound by certain rules. But when a devotee goes in, Krishna doesn't want to intervene in the rules. But sometimes when the jiva goes in, by the mercy of a merciful acharya like Srila Prabhupada, it understands I'm at the wrong place. In some movies you might have seen, the soldiers keep walking, or even some civilians. Suddenly they would realize they have just stepped on a mine. And then everyone will freak out and run away. They would stand there and they would be advised, don't move, don't lift your leg, don't do anything. Because you are already there now. Now, if you lift, it's going to blast not just you, it's going to affect people around you as well. So, our situation in this material world is also like that. Samashkrite pada pallava plavam mahat padam punyasho murari. Bhavam budir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. Padam padam yadvipadam natesham means there's danger at every step. Literally, it's like walking on a minefield only. Our whole life, until we come in the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada taught us who is Krishna. Prabhupada gave us Radha Gopinath. Prabhupada told us how to love Krishna. So, by the mercy of the Acharya, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, now we know this is the path. But we are still in the minefield only. However, because we have taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada, Swayam Samutirya Sudushtaram Diman Bhavarnamam. It's given that this world is like a huge ocean. The huge ocean wherein nobody can actually swim and find the shores. Because it's an ocean, no matter how expert a swimmer is, one can never find where the ocean is ending. However, if we follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, they have given us the shelter of the Supreme Lord, which is like a boat. They have given us instructions. If we simply follow that, then suddenly this whole ocean gets squeezed and becomes as small as just the water contained on the hoof print of a calf. That's the beauty. So it's like we are on minefield, but as soon as we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, then the minefield becomes a nice green field, lush green field. Mines are all disappeared. So this field of material existence is like that. There are certain rules which Krishna doesn't want to intervene. As we said, the Lord is not so inclined to get engaged in this Ekapada Vibhuti. However, terms and conditions apply. However, if one takes the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, if one takes the shelter of the pure devotees of the Lord, then the Lord will come and he will change the rules of the game to favor the devotees. But Krishna is still aloof. How can we say Krishna is then neutral? Krishna is neutral in the sense that that person who is taking his shelter, even if he happens to be Hiranyakashipu or Ravana, Krishna will still give them opportunity to cross the ocean. So Krishna is neutral. Samoham sarva bhuteshu. I envy no one, name dveshos tena priya. I envy no one, nor I'm partial to anyone. However, those who takes shelter of me, Krishna says, I will show them special favor. He is a friend, he is in me, and I am in him. That's fair. If somebody comes, don't talk to us, we also don't talk to them. But if somebody comes talking to us, we need to reciprocate there. Otherwise, we would be treated, blamed, criticized as being hard-hearted, indifferent, proud. So how is this any different to how Krishna is behaving? If somebody don't reach out to Krishna, Krishna allows them to enjoy with the minefield in the material world. But if somebody is taking shelter of Krishna, naturally Krishna is reciprocating with them. Now, is Krishna partial because he is reciprocating only with people who is taking shelter? How can we say he is partial? How is that any different to us not talking to somebody who didn't talk to us? So we are or not necessarily we, generally there is a tendency to blame and unfairly criticize God. So if we deal with people in a certain way, and if Krishna is also a person, Krishna deals with the jivas in the certain way, and if they both are same, then how can we say Krishna is unfair and only we are being fair? So we can understand all these different arguments which sometimes you will see people with agnostic thought or even atheistic thought, so-called atheistic. As I say, there is nothing called atheism. It's just there is honesty and there is lack of integrity. That's all. People who are honest, they know that there is God. People who are not honest, they also know that there is God, but they won't agree that there is God. That's all. Otherwise, Prabhupada says, only a madman will actually not understand that there is a Supreme Lord. Everyone understands that there is a Supreme Lord, but those who agree to follow the instructions and follow, they are known as theists. But those who still deliberately want to reject the existence of God, even though they believe, they can't live without that understanding. Otherwise, everyone will go mad. So they are called atheists. Atheists doesn't mean I don't believe in God. Atheist simply means I'm just being dishonest with myself. That's all it means. I can't drive the car on the street. and I'm speeding, and a police car comes, pulls me over. I can't say, I don't believe in the government. I don't believe in the transport department. What do you mean believe? You are using it. You know that there is one. So if somebody says I don't believe means, then we'll say most likely they'll end up going to an asylum, lunatic asylum. So there's nothing called atheism in this world. People normally they use that, but actually there's no integrity in that word, in the usage of the word itself. Everyone understands that there is something superior. The reason question comes then why are they not accepting? Why are they not being honest with themselves? Because they feel if I accept the existence of God, then there is a certain accountability that comes. Oh, don't do this, don't do this. If this is good for you, this is bad for you, and they don't want that. Which means they just want to remain stupid rest of their lives. That's all it means. If somebody comes and gives good instruction, Prabhupada gives this famous story of Kalidas. When he was young, before he was blessed with God, with the mercy of Goddess Kali, he was actually very dumb person. So one day he sits on the branch of a tree, in the edge of the branch, and then he cuts the portion of the branch that is connecting the branch to the tree. What would happen? If he finishes cutting, he will fall along with the branch. So somebody who was there around, they said like, hey, don't do this. But he was at that point of time, he's not great Mahakavi Kalidas yet. He was just a dumb village person who is illiterate, who even villagers were actually saying he's just a dumb person because he was dumb. So at that time he says like, no, it can't be true. And then he cuts, and then finally when the branch falls, he also falls. And then he thinks, wow, that person must be a great fortune teller. So Prabhupada says, people know. Intuitively, everyone knows. So Prabhupada says that it's the intuitive nature of the soul to plead for help. You'll come across some videos in social media also. Sometimes you will see even a big bear or even a wild animal also. Sometimes even tiger or some wolf. They would come and seek help from humans to please come and protect their mates or their friends or their kids, and they would lead them. You would see videos like that. So it is the nature of the soul to seek for help whenever it is in danger. Now, those in human form of life, they know where to ask the help from. Now, if somebody is in human form of life, still say there is nobody above, which means you are lower than an animal. Because an animal knows if it needs help, it would come and ask help from others. And if somebody is in human form of life, they know that they need help and they know that there is somebody higher. There is Supreme Lord from whom they can ask help from. However, being falsely proud. That's where the word false pride comes. Falsely proud. Damba. So, because of being falsely proud, they are not seeking the help. And they call themselves as atheists. So, next time you come across this word atheist, we don't need to dignify that they don't believe in God. They believe in God, they just want to be irresponsible. That's all in their relationship with the God. So, here the Lord is aloof. Even though He creates, He facilitates everything. And now, Lord Brahma says from his own experience. He says, when I appeared on the lotus from the Lord's navel, I couldn't see any ingredients around. There was only lotus. I tried to find the origin, nothing was there. I did tapasya. And when I have to do the sacrifice, I took all the ingredients from the limbs of the Lord. For performing sacrificial ceremonies, one requires sacrificial ingredients such as altar, grains, 4 priests, hota. You will come across the priest who actually offers the oblation into the fire. So you will come across them. Hotri, so Hota, Advaryu, Brahma, Udgata. So you will come across these 4 different types of priests. Where did they come from? Again, their origin is from the limbs of the Lord. All these ingredients are arranged by the Lord's limbs. The hymns, Samaveda, Yajurveda. They all come from the Supreme Lord's limbs. And through them I performed sacrifice for the pleasure of the Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice. Thereafter, your 9 brothers. So Lord Brahma is telling to Narada Muni. First he had 10 sons and then you will see many others coming. So here he is saying, thereafter, your 9 brothers and later Prajapatis, Manus, sages, and others worshipped the Lord with such sacrifices. So now he is concluding here this particular section, saying that everything that happens or everything that is done in this universe, any ingredient, any material that you use, everything comes from the body of the Supreme Lord. So in this way, he concludes this section about yacha, the ingredients, and he will extend this in the rest of the chapter. We'll conclude that in the next section. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki jai, Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna.